We might win. Will we win the chip war? I don't know. We might. Maybe they can't figure out how to get their chips together and how to make them. Maybe they can't figure it out. Maybe they can't steal the machines. Maybe they can't copy the plans. Maybe they can't do like an Oppenheimer, crash, figure it out. Smart Chinese people figure all this out. Maybe they can't do that. Are we going to bet the fucking farm on that? Because that's essentially what they're asking us to do. Because it's just business as normal, right? They're just like tossing out all this money, which like their semiconductor fund got raided. Who do you think's raiding our semiconductor fund? I want to talk further about the chip war with China. I did a little bit talking about how we've been fucked because the private equity people and everybody like sent all the chip making stuff to Taiwan because the government was subsidizing it and it was easier for them. And making chips is hard, so they did that and they got very good at it, and they're the only ones that can do it now. So this is the fight. We're throwing money at the problem. China's throwing money at the problem. The last time China threw money at the problem, it all got ripped off. We all know about their big semiconductor plan. They wasted billions of dollars trying to boost up their semiconductors previously. I guess poorly managed or whatever, but the money was stolen. They don't have that capability. We offshored it. The only company in the world that makes the equipment necessary that to install in the factories to make the chips is called ASML in the Netherlands. They are willing to sell some of the older technology to anyone, essentially. China, essentially, is who we're talking about. Whereas because a lot of the IP comes out of California due to U.S. export controls, the United States, through the president, can prevent them from selling the most advanced extreme ultraviolet lithography equipment, very big chip making machines, to countries that are going to sell the end chips to China or whoever that we don't want. And so that essentially forced them to cut off China orders for, I think, chips that were below 5 nanometers, and or for machines that can create chips below 5 nanometers. And then they're still selling 7 nanometer machines, I believe, to pretty much anyone. We're looking at cutting edge of like this next generation of mobile chips, 3 nanometers. TSMC is one of the major Taiwan chip making companies that is at the center of all this. And they are working on, I think they have an agreement with Japan, essentially the 2 nanometer chips. That's what's coming next, but that will be off in the future. In Trump times, in 2020, Trump was able to block China from getting access to the 3 nanometer chips through export controls. And that was a major attack on Huawei. We've talked about this before. That was actually, kind of old news, but a first step. Good, but they can obviously go around it. They're going to work around it. Also, probably should happen sooner, but the influence of Huawei is great. More recently, Joe Biden put China on restriction for buying the high performance NVIDIA chips that they need for this second generation AI, generative AI, this, very intensive compute applications of artificial intelligence. They desperately need these chips, especially for military applications, but also for regular business as well. Their businesses have to compete with ours. These are kind of a precursor to who is going to succeed on this next generation of AI, generative AI, which is the ChatGPT and the other stuff that people are seeing now. Kind of the update on it is that China is producing these chips anyway somehow. They're probably talking some shit. They probably are making substandard chips. They're probably making small amounts of them. They're probably making them at an inefficient margin. Essentially, the government have to subsidize them. They can make the chip, but it's expensive. It's not as cheap as the Taiwan ones because it's all about efficiency when you're making these chips if you want to turn a profit, which is why these companies can't survive without government assistance. They have this nationalization plan. I mean, they're using essentially state-owned, semi-state-owned industries, pumping unlimited amount of money into it so that they can onshore the capability to make their own AI chips and mobile chips and just chips in general, even just low-grade chips for, washers and dryers, stovetop ovens or whatever. I mean, everything has chips in it these days. They need all of that. It's probably their top national priority right now. On our side, we are having a little bit of problems integrating the Taiwanese into Arizona and staffing up those plants. We have committed resources through the CHIPS Act last year, the controls that are being put on. Actually, Biden just did more controls on not just AI, but also quantum and other advanced technologies, think hypersonics, that technology going to China. So, I mean, we are ratcheting up the controls, but they are also ratcheting up their spying, because this is how they get around it. They'll spy, they will steal, they will go around the embargo, where they will either rent the chips or they'll buy them through a shell company. That's going to become increasingly harder and harder because these things are in very, very high demand. The Middle Eastern governments want them as well. We obviously want them. There's just not enough of them to go around. So it's going to come a new situation where this NVIDIA company and their stock is going up through the roof, and they've been a very good company for a very long time. They are kind of like the new ExxonMobil. So the point of this is we might win. Will we win the chip war? I don't know. We might. Maybe they can't figure out how to get their chips together and how to make them. Maybe they can't figure it out. Maybe they can't steal the machines. Maybe they can't copy the plans. Maybe they can't do like an Oppenheimer, crash, figure it out. Smart Chinese people figure all this out. Maybe they can't do that. Are we going to bet the fucking farm on that? Because that's essentially what they're asking us to do. Because it's just business as normal, right? They're just like tossing out all this money, which like their semiconductor fund got raided. Who do you think's raiding our semiconductor fund? We're going to have all kinds of delays, problems, red tape, bullshit, government bullshit, this and that. I mean, they need to rush this stuff as fast as possible. And we need to secure the supplies of rare earth minerals for the batteries and the other advanced electrical components and other types of components that are going to be necessary for us to maintain a technological supremacy over China, which is adversary. If they can beat us, they'll fight us. So we have to have better equipment. We have to have better technology, and we are in a competition with them, whether we fight or not, but the competition is on. We need these things. And the people in charge are not fast enough. They're not thinking fast enough. They're not making decisions fast enough. And I'm not talking just about the military. Now I'm also talking about the politicians and just like heads of corporations and everything. Because the people at the top only, when you're at the end of your career, your horizon for decision making is only like 5 years. Maybe you're a far-thinking general, a far-thinking SES bureaucrat in the department of blah, blah, blah. And you're at the end of your career and you are laying the groundwork for the next 10 years of the Department of Energy or whatever like that. And you're a fucking genius. And the guy that comes after you is not going to change it. So you've got it all figured out 5-10 years down the road. But realistically, that's like short horizon. There's no transformative change that's going to happen. It's all just bullshit. All this like far-thinking shit, and then dump it off on the next guy, and then you retire to Florida with your honey and go jet skiing every day. It's the next guy's problem. And then you're on the board of some company or whatever, and you're doing this, and you're living the good life. I mean, no. We cannot run the military this way.